Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, Mark. Carolyn should be joining us shortly. As I said before, Matt Lucas has to take his wife to get a COVID test, so he should join when he's able to after that. I think other than that, we're all here. So call to order 9:35. Did you guys have a chance to look at the previous meeting minutes from November?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, all right, perfect. And thank you for sending those, Nick. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Any comments, edits, questions on those?
Any changes here?
No comments.
Okay. Brian, I saw you come off mute, but I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, no, yeah, I didn't have anything to say, so I figured I'd probably just go back onto mute.
Okay, no worries. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the November minutes?
Yes, I move to approve it.
Okay, Matt Shipley moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Brian seconds. Thumbs up or aye verbally?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Well, that was our easiest agenda item of the day. Okay, so moving along, Sergeant's promotional exam timetable and update. So I know last month when we met, Bob had asked Falco if there was any reason to wait for the, there was a, sorry, I'm trying to remember the terminology. There was a challenge or a right to know request,
No.
I guess is what it was called.
Yeah, it was a right to know request. Yeah,
Correct.
There was a right to know request.
Yep, thanks, Falco. And you had advised that there was no reason to wait to go ahead with the sergeant promotional process. And Bob, I thought you had said that that would probably be a matter for council to undertake in December, but at this point, I'm guessing we're looking at that being a interview and vote process in January. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is, we got ourselves sidetracked, so with
Okay.
other matters, so I'm planning, I actually have it scheduled for the January 10th meeting.
Okay. And is that when you say have it scheduled, the interviews or discussion, or what exactly is scheduled?
My hope would be that it would be clear cut enough that they could interview and appoint the same evening. Our typical approach had always been to interview prior to a regular meeting. And my guess is that it should be fairly clear cut. Unless number one guy bombs his interview. I mean, I would think that they would go that direction.
Okay.
But, worst case scenario would be the 24th, if they want to mull it over.
Okay.
So we'll
And
have that done.
All right, good. And let us know what you need. I think last time you said you had what you need, but if you need anything else from me or the board, certainly let us know.
No, I think the only thing that the council will be looking for will be that certified list with the top three candidates, and then we'll get their applications. I would assume that, Nick, do you have them, or did you guys, does the personnel board have them? The applications themselves?
I think that the board has those. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy. I can look
don't
back to
know.
when we had the interviews back in August. But
Did they submit applications? I don't recall
Oh,
applications.
you know what? I'm thinking, sorry. I've been interviewing and talking to so many different people. I don't remember the
I get it.
processes. Yeah, you should. We'll get resumes or something from each of them to give to the council so they have the background. So Nick and I can handle that.
yeah, I can help with
From this point on. I don't believe there's anything else I need from you guys.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks. And circling back, I shouldn't have breezed over the right to know request. I know there were a couple of emails going back and forth. Falco or Nick or Bob, do you guys need any additional information from us on that? Or I know we don't want to go into too much detail on this call regarding
Right?
that, but
Based
Anything else?
on, based on what I've seen in the email threads, there are no further records of individual scoring. So I don't believe there's anything else we need.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
Sorry.
No, I said, then, it's a matter in front of the Office of Open Records at the state at this point.
With the state.
Yeah, he appealed our denial or our partial denial. So we're waiting to hear whether the Office of Open Records is going to require us to provide any other detail.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and probably with the timeline, that decision from OOR would probably come sometime in January, mid-January, end of January.
Yeah, they actually indicated to us it could be as late as February.
Oh my, okay.
Yeah. Must be a
We are-
busy time.
We are dealing with the state, so, interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for the update there.
Sure.
All right.
Carolyn is
So,
joining us now.
oh, hey, Carolyn. All right. So we are on agenda item 3 now, new police officer exam and selection criteria details. We did make a lot of headway in the last meeting. In particular, we came up with recommendations for the scores for written and oral exams, both for new officers and promotions. And we talked at length about the criteria, and Falco had advised that we need sort of a outline of the process perhaps for the ordinance, and then behind the scenes we put together a more specific, like, here's how we as the personnel board would do this, but not necessarily incorporate that into the ordinance so that it doesn't have to be modified every time we want to go through the process and make small tweaks. So I think I got that right. Someone correct me if that's wrong.
Nope, that's a good summary.
Okay. I can't remember, Brian, you were going to work on something, but I don't think it was this. I think what you had said that you were going to work on was sorry, I'm pulling up, I have so many documents open here, but I think you were working on the, where did that go? Was this it? Oh, here it is. No, you were working on the ordinance and how to change the section 208. Is that accurate? Uh-oh. I think you might have accidentally hung up. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. So long story short, in answer to your question, Falco, I don't think anyone has drafted the behind the scenes. Well, that's not true. Nick took a first stab at it. Thank you, Nick. No one from, oh, we have kitty cats and dogs. I'm so happy to see animals.
Sorry, he's begging to be held.
And Matt has
He's
a
welcome
cat.
to them.
Oh, so cute.
Here's Brian getting back on too. So he's
Yeah. Sorry, Brian, I think you may have accidentally hung up. Maybe he's just joining still. Okay, so anyway, Nick drafted the very bare bones of a document of how we would go through the process. I can certainly work on that. I think the other outstanding item is to go through the ordinance and make the changes that we have been discussing. We've discussed and agreed upon, for the most part, changes to several different sections. I think what needs to be done is to take all of those records from the past, probably 4 or 5 meetings, and put it together into one document and send it back to this group to review. I've not had a chance to do this. This is like crazy time at work for me. So I can do that. However, it won't be anytime soon. Well, I think our next meeting is January
19th, I think.
19th? Okay, thank you. So I can probably do that before the 19th. I have some time during the holidays. And then hopefully we can move that forward, vote on it then. One of the other things that we had talked about was putting together sort of what are we looking for? So what's the ideal police officer look like? And I thought certainly we want Chief Hawk's opinion, and I have not had a chance to connect with him on that. However, what I thought we could do is perhaps start with the categories that we used for the sergeant exam, and they might be slightly different, but they're probably for the most, some of them might overlap. So I know like Brian and Mark, you guys weren't involved in that process. But if you want to take a look at the document I sent out this morning, and I'll just explain the weird name of it. So we used a very similar document for the sergeant interview process, and I wanted to keep that whole so that if anyone said, well, what questions did you ask last time? But as we went through the process, there were a couple of questions that were repetitive. So I can't even remember which one it was, but we tweaked a couple of the questions or maybe deleted one or something. It was a very minor change. So that's why this one that I sent out this morning is called Revised After Interview Process. Use this next time. You see, I have to put these like reminders for myself for the next time. So if you want to take a look at that specifically, I'm scrolling down to the last page, the rating and summary page. Glenn Nelson?
Yeah, Mr. Nelson just gave me a call. He's just a citizen sitting in on the
Oh.
meeting, I
Oh,
believe.
good.
So,
Okay, welcome. All right, so the last page of this has 5 categories. And what we did for the sergeant interviews was use these categories and ask, on average, 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 questions per category. And then we had scenarios as well. So if we look at the scoring there, the categories is what I think we should talk about today. So would these same categories apply to new officers, or maybe we want to tweak the categories? So the first one, self-awareness / maturity / integrity.
That's a good one.
You think that applies as is?
Yes, the overall category apply. How we would specifically apply it to a new recruit would be somewhat different.
Yep. Okay. Other thoughts?
I don't see Brian there.
Was that Falco?
No, that wasn't
And I'm
me.
sorry, I was off because I went to unmute myself and inadvertently hit end call.
We figured.
So sorry about that. So just to kind of refresh on the question that I wasn't able to answer because of my Zoom ineffectiveness. When I thought about doing this, I realized there's a fair number of sort of outstanding questions about it, and I didn't want to go out kind of, ahead of this and end up being like a single hand clapping. So I just wanted to, reset a bit and see. And I also realized I had some concerns about the idea of devolving sort of responsibilities from town council in the process of doing this. And that may not matter too much. It just may matter more of the form of the modifications that hopefully eventually get approved and whether they are fully incorporated into a resolution that changes the bylaws, or whether it's something that is a bylaw change and a separate document. But I did realize that I was a little less comfortable with that general approach, and I understand there may be other municipalities that that can make sense for. But I just I thought we should reconsider that part of it at least.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, no worries, Brian. We have time. We can regroup, reconvene. I'm curious though, when you said evolving responsibilities of town council, what?
No, sorry, devolving.
Oh, devolving. So
it's
tell me-
basically saying this is no longer under the direct decision-making authority of town council. It's saying we're going to let the board decide these things. So that was, yeah, I was less comfortable with that approach than after I kind of let it digest a bit.
Okay, I don't recall what we would have changed that would have, or what we were suggesting that would have changed the council's role in the process, but nonetheless, we can go back to that section. I can't remember the names of the sections off the top of my head, but whatever that was, I think it was 208 and 303 that you were working on, and we can look at those. I think actually, now that I look at that, I think 303 we came to an agreement during the last meeting, and it was 208 that you were drafting some content for. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't remember exact section numbers, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. That, like I said, like we've had so many conversations. I feel like I try to take good notes during these meetings, and we just have all these different stuff that I feel like I just need to pull it all in, put it in one document and send it out. Because also I'm a visual person, so to have it for everyone to look at, and then people can say, yes, we like it, or no, we don't like it, because you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did that thing I drafted did have the section numbers in it. So if you wanted to, check the section numbers, if you wanted to just look at that original document that I had sent out, it did have the section numbers in it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now, actually. But we had some discussion about that in the last meeting, and I don't know that we ever came to an agreement on what that should look like. I think we're going to go back to the drawing board. So, yeah. Okay, so thank you, Brian. Appreciate that input. And so in the time where you had left, we were talking about the interview questions. So let me pull those up again. And we were talking about them in the context of if or how they would apply for new officers. So being that we started with the sergeant interviews, that's where I thought we could kind of use that as maybe a baseline and then tweak it for the new officers, because that's where we're trying to go next, as everyone knows. So self-awareness, maturity, integrity, maybe the questions differ, but the category applies. Would all agree with that?
Yes.
I see some heads nodding, yes. Okay, so the next one is leadership. Some of the things we're trying to get at, and that's a pretty broad category, so without like reading the questions out loud, leading a team, well, actually, here's some of the criteria under leadership: developing, motivating a team, engaging individuals, reviewing and assessing your own and team performance against standards, providing objective and effective feedback, coaching and mentoring colleagues, planning ahead and allocating work appropriately. Those are some of the items we're trying to get to with the leadership question.
Right. So Amy, for a new recruit, if they're coming straight out of the academy, leadership is probably something that they're going to develop over time.
Yeah.
If it's another police officer coming from a different department, that may be applicable, but I think you want to keep the playing field somewhat level.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not
so in my experience, I definitely want to comment on that. So I've done a fair amount of entry-level leadership program recruiting, and so I think there's two things. The first is I think leadership is relevant for these folks, and it's almost like the team is not the traditional sense of leading a team of officers. It's leading a team of really almost like a team of citizens, where you're interacting with the community, and leadership means engaging with the community in a constructive way. And when we've been recruiting entry-level people for these kinds of leadership, almost transition roles, it's been, okay, well, what sorts of things have you demonstrated? Where you demonstrated ability to engage with a group, really effectively communicate, and find win-win solutions. Like, there's all kinds of questions around that give people the opportunity to speak about their day-to-day experiences in normal situations that don't involve public safety, that are extremely relevant. And they actually, when somebody doesn't have anything to say to that, that's actually super, super instructive. Again, you can fail on that question. I've seen it happen. So, I think that stays in. It gets modified to be appropriate to the right level, and it asks questions about people's day-to-day sort of experiences that are relevant to those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And I would
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that those are really great questions to ask, but I don't think that it fits under leadership. I think you change the category title, like social interaction or whatever it is that he was kind of pointing towards there. But the leadership that you have here, it could be deceiving, that question, if you categorize it as such.
Yeah, I think how we've defined it, as I read through, doesn't really fit for new officers. And I think some of the things that Brian said are relevant. So maybe, maybe the title isn't as descriptive as we would like, and it's leadership through a different lens, or it's more sort of being a role model, or leading peers, or I don't, we'll have to think about what we call it, but certainly as we've defined it here, I think it's less relevant for the new officers. So let's keep going and let's come back to leadership.
Yeah, well, again, I think it can be leadership and it cannot be leadership. So it's almost like you don't want to say, you don't want to complete, like if people have leadership experience, you want to give them credit for it, right? So
Yeah.
I at the same time, non-leadership experiences where it's just really working well with the group, I think that counts too. It doesn't count as strongly, but somebody who has that versus somebody who has nothing is better. It's better. So
About leadership potential, that's really what you're looking for.
right.
I know from councils, just in past when we've done interviews, it's the same thing where we've come up, they're young, they're new officers, but we do ask and we want to know. Communication is a huge part. But I think these are kind of like, when I'm trying to think of a title, it's almost like it's like a stepping block to that leadership. But I do agree with both Ryan and Matt that it is, they are still young in their career, but yet there are opportunities that will happen out in the street or something where something may go wrong, or I don't know, something that's definitely been maybe, I don't know what kind of, can't even think of it as a situation, but yeah, I definitely think that some of them might have those experiences, and I think we want to hear about that, because I know, you want to be able to see that they can communicate and, work with their partners. So.
Right. Yeah. So let's keep going, because that is covered in later category, the communication skills, which both, all three of you actually have mentioned. So, sorry, I just had another thought. Anyway. All right. So judgment and problem solving. Oh, I know what my other thought was. Matt Lucas had provided to us some questions that they used in Bellevue for the new officers. So what I would like to do is put together this interview and evaluation guide for new officers and sort of model it after the one that we use for sergeants. But that's where I'm looking for your guys' input around categories and what's really important. So I think we all agree some facet of leadership is important. What we call it and what exactly we're looking for is maybe still up for debate, but let's keep going, because maybe we don't need 5 categories, and some of the things you're mentioning are encompassed in the last 3. So the third one is judgment and problem solving. So we define this one as problem solving skills with the ability to identify cause and effect and develop a course of action, mitigate risk, manage impacts. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. Able to problem solve, critically question, and identify potential opportunities to enhance efficiency or effectiveness, and able to identify, analyze, and manage risk. So I think like some of the questions were around decision making and making improvements and that sort of thing. I think this still applies. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
All right. So again, maybe we can tweak the questions, but all right, next one. I think this one's really important. Communications and partnership skills. So this was getting to strong communication skills, adapting your language, message, and format to meet the needs of different audiences, identifying key stakeholders and partners, understanding their needs, and developing working relationships, and managing the introduction of new processes or ways of working at the team level. So some of the questions were around, tell us about disagreements, challenging interactions, how have you adjusted your communication in the past, those sorts of things. Thoughts on, is that applicable as is?
No, we're going to have to tweak all these questions for these categories to make them applicable to recruits, but the broader category is certainly relevant.
Okay, I would agree. Other thoughts? Okay. All right, and then the last one we had here, oh, that was it for the categories. Then we had scenarios. So obviously the scenarios are going to have to be tweaked. So thinking about those broad categories, if I were to put together a draft for the officer interviews, are there categories for officers or like big buckets that we're missing here?
Was where maybe I missed it, but was there like just a service kind of question? Like, have you felt like you've served groups of people or communities or any of that kind of stuff?
There wasn't in the sergeant interview, but maybe that's, I think that's worth exploring for the officers. So say more about that, Brian.
Well, I mean, the idea is that, you know, two of the words that I've always heard described about these kinds of jobs is protect and serve. And if we're not asking about that second word, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice and potentially not giving credit to people who might deserve additional sort of kudos for things they've done in their normal lives that demonstrate that service mindset.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. As I recall, when I was proctoring their exam, I was flipping through the book and there was some component of, I think it was called community policing. And we have had conversations on this board in the past about the importance of McCandless officers in particular being service oriented, right? It's not just, the enforcement kind of aspects of the job that are important. It's some elderly woman locks herself out of her car and needs help. It's being, or we've talked about the example of there's a rabid raccoon in someone's yard, and like they have to be willing to, if not directly deal with things, help citizens figure out how to deal with problems like that. So that service aspect, I think, is a good call out. Thank you.
I think a good question under self-awareness is why they want to be a police officer. What has motivated them to do that?
Yeah.
Guys, I have to join another call. If I get off that early, I will join back in with you guys.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn.
Sorry, thanks.
Bye, Carolyn.
All right. Other categories or aspects of what you would, like if you just think about sitting down, if you were singly responsible for interviewing a new officer, what would you ask him or her?
I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Yeah, that service thing was the only thing I thought of.
Thank you. Appreciate your input there. Okay, so I can try to put a draft of something together. I'm going to need help with the scenarios between Matt, L, and Chief Hawk. Maybe they can come up with some scenarios for us, or maybe they have some that we've used in the past, but I'm not the person to do that, but I can come up with some recommendations for the questions. And then, so for section 208, let's circle back to that for a minute. We talked about the scoring there, and then we talked about the veterans preference points, and that was not negotiable, essentially. And then we're going to go back and kind of work on that language in that section. Is there anything else that, sorry, I'm just scanning through what we did last time. Anything there that we want to talk about in this meeting?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. All right. So moving on in the agenda. Police Department community engagement updates. Oh, this is where I know we did want to revisit our willingness and or ability to sponsor officers for the exam. Well, then we have the update from Chief Hawk, which Nick has apparently for us, but let's push that out. So we talked a little bit about that, and then I think I forwarded to everyone. Chief Hawk had sent out, I forget what department it was, Franklin Park maybe, some other department had begun to accept officers that hadn't yet passed the police academy. And we were considering whether or not we wanted to do that in McCandless. So any further thoughts about that? Would that help us broaden our pool potentially?
Amy, what does it mean to sponsor a person? What does that mean?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So from what I know, I don't know a ton about this. I'm certainly not the expert, but currently our ordinance states that, I'm paraphrasing here because I can't find the section right off the top of my head, but that they must have completed the academy or will complete it within 6 months or something to that effect. And that the payment for doing that is on their own. So they have to do that before they can be employed in McCandless as a police officer. What we had talked about in the past was, would we perhaps employ them at a lower rate or on a conditional basis or some sort of, like, before they go to that police academy, pay for them to go to that, maybe even pay them to learn the job as they're completing the academy, just to try to widen the candidate pool.
What happens when they fail the academy?
Good question.
What is the cost of the academy?
Does anyone recall? I think Chief Hawk might have answered that in one of our previous meetings, but
I think he did. That was a long time ago.
I know. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the spirit of this wasn't that we were going to worry about all the details and figure out all the details. It was just, we wanted to leave the door open to the possibility with the option of figuring out the details later. That was kind of the spirit of, because if we try to figure out exactly what the costs are and what the consequences are of different scenarios, we can burn a ton of time and energy on this that really may come to nothing because they may never even use it. So why don't we just leave it, just craft it as an open door with the details TBD. That might be it's certainly the easiest thing to do, and it probably answers the mail for the short term.
Well, the other thing I would want to know is this, and I have no clue, is the academy cost $8,000 for 6 months, or does it cost $80,000 for 6 months? I don't have a clue, so it's hard to make.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a few $1,000s. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was not like multiple tens of thousands of dollars.
It's about $5,000 for the website.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
$5,000, I think I'll do up front on the first day of classes. Is what
Does anybody know what the fail rate is out of the academy? Any clue?
No, but I'm kind of with Brian. I feel like at the very least, we might want to table this discussion until Chief Hawk is able to opine, because we have very little information. But I will say in the Article 137, the way it's written is, be a person who has successfully completed a basic police training course in conformity with current law, formerly PA Act 120, and commit to the taking of a certification examination administered by MPO ETC within 60 days. And I think, actually, now that I read that, I think I may have suggested some verbiage changes there that would leave it open to say, or be willing to complete this, or something to that effect. So I think we probably need Chief Hawk for this conversation.
Yeah, the reason why I bring up the if they fail the academy is because if we sponsor somebody and put the time and effort into them and then they fail the academy, we're kind of back to the square one.
Right. Well,
Yeah, I
and-
agree. That's a valid scenario. It's just, do we want to spend our time worrying about that right now?
No, we don't need to worry about it right now, but it's certainly something that if we're going to answer Amy's questions, like I would say, no, I wouldn't want to open it up because I don't want to go through that scenario.
Yeah. And I think we're all operating with the assumption that the pool of candidates will be much more narrow than it has been in the past, which is probably true. However, we could also get some information from Chief Hawk from his contacts that have they seen this playing out? Did the other department that was just interviewing, I forget which municipality it was, did they have problems finding officers? Because that's why we would be doing this, right? That's the whole premise here. We're trying to make a broader candidate pool to attract different types of candidates, specifically people who are new to being a police officer and people who are maybe not sure that this is, they want to invest the time and money. So I don't know, like, I think I have a lot of questions that none of us really have the answer to. So maybe we put this on a future agenda.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We could also do, as I think about it, like a conditional. So for the first round of applications, we would only accept people who fit this criteria. However, if we have issues finding enough applicants or good quality applicants, then we could look to broaden it, like a step 2 kind of thing.
I would worry a little bit about making that explicit because then people would say, I'll just wait till it's free.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Okay, police department community engagement updates. Is that you, Nick? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is that Chief Hawk's report? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So he says, first of all, police department is looking forward to, and this is a town event, Winterfest coming up this Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. And just general, that's something we have going on here at Town Hall. Everyone is invited. We hope that you'll join us for that. They've also had some various sort of coffee with cops events and some other kind of meet and greet things with citizens over the past month. They raised a total of approximately $2,000 for a family in the town, and they will get that donation to the family next week for the No Shave November efforts.
Nice.
And he said that was raised almost entirely by the police officers with some participation from our public works superintendent and donations from 2 of the Citizens Police Academy graduates. They said that they're also searching for a sponsor for the Citizens Police Academy, and he will probably have an update on that by the next meeting. So that's all.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
If anyone has any questions for Chief Hawk, in addition to what we were just discussing about the police academy and everything, let me know and I can relay those to him or make mention of that in the minutes.
Nick, what does it mean when you say he's looking for a sponsor for the police academy? What does that mean?
I think that, they're looking for some sort of financial assistance. I'm honestly not sure, Mark, if it's more for the cost of the academy itself or for assistance to get more people, kind of the fee for attendance for the academy. I'll have to get some clarification from him on that.
Well, Mark, I know that there were some costs. So for example, the last night they had a simulation and there was a vendor who came in with this machine that projected things onto a screen. So I'm sure McCandless Police Force had to pay for his time and the equipment and whatever that. So that's just one thing that would have been a cost other than, well, and there was potential overtime because several of the officers attended to teach us during the academy. So there might be other costs that I'm not aware of, other direct or indirect costs, but probably just sponsoring those sorts of things. The t-shirts, those were a cost. Falco, I see your squares lighting up. Did you want to ask a question or add something? No. Okay.
So Amy, I'm sorry. I just want to go back so I understand this. So the township in our, I guess, tax dollars don't pay for the academy and for supporting the overtime for police officers to do these events. Is that what I'm hearing? These are all
Well,
public or privately funded events?
No,
Cost.
last time the township paid, but I think Chief Hawk or maybe someone else had the idea that, hey, wouldn't it be great if someone would sponsor this and we wouldn't have to take it out of the town funds? I'm just hypothesizing here. I haven't talked to him directly, but
Thanks.
yeah. I think a lot of the time, or a lot of the cost essentially would have been the leadership and officers' time to set up, like thinking about the agenda and preparing the lessons and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of it's probably already been committed or done, or but like I said, there might be other direct or indirect costs to cover in the future.
Everyone, and to address Mark's question, the town does pay out the time involved. If there's overtime involved in, whether it was the academy or any of the events that Nick mentioned earlier, the town does pay the officers to participate in those areas. I believe what the chief is trying to do is in that sponsorship, try to offset some of those overall costs. But he and I haven't discussed it at any great length at this point. But I do want to assure Mark that we are paying the officers, if it's appropriate to attend those events and participate.
Thanks, Bob. I just wanted to understand what the sponsorship entailed and what the costs were and what we were covering.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the overall cost for us for the police academy in this past year was probably south of, with everything, including the SimTac training, probably south of 10,000 for sure, maybe closer to $8,000 when it was all said and done. That includes the overtime.
That's very helpful.
Well, maybe just a note for Chief Hawk that, or I can try to remember to mention it to him. If he's looking for our help with identifying businesses or if he has leads, I don't know if any of you guys would have contacts in the community that would be interested in sponsoring, or if you're looking for one big sponsor, if that's something you need the personnel board's help with, he can reach out to us and let us know, I guess. And then actually that reminds me, when I was at the town council meeting on Monday, there was an item on the agenda, I think, that was like a report from Chief Hawk. I think it would be helpful, and this is probably don't forget to mention to Carolyn kind of a thing, for the personnel board to receive that report as well on a monthly basis, just so we have the same information and can ask questions if there's any questions about that.
Yeah, I can make sure that that's sent out in addition to, agendas, meeting minutes, other things, maybe put that on the Dropbox site and all that to make that kind of part of our routine.
Thank you. And thanks for setting up the Dropbox site. I don't know if we talked about that last time, but that's super helpful. And
yeah,
I probably
I'll send
should
out
have.
another one for that.
Okay, awesome. I probably should have, instead of like emailing everyone, put it on the Dropbox, but I do find it helpful to have it in email, and then I can access it on my work machine too. Mm-hmm. All right, so I see we have about 10 minutes left. Our next next agenda item is other business and public comments. So any other business? Okay, how about public comments? We have one member of the public on. Any public comments?
Yeah, just ask Mr. Nelson to unmute if he has anything or can hear us.
No, I have no comments to make.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. Our next meeting is January 19th at 9:30 a.m. So please make sure you have that on your calendar. Nick will be sending out an invitation, but put a hold on your calendar for now. And I think that's all I had. Anything else for the good of the cause? No. Okay, so motion to adjourn.
I so motion.
Matt makes the
Second.
motion. Brian seconds. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
too.
everyone.
Thanks. You too, Falco. Bye-bye.